Welcome to season 3 of You Are Significant, the podcast where real stories are told by real people that create more awareness of your own significance. You were created on purpose for a purpose with seeds of greatness inside of you. Ready to grow? Let's get down to it. All right. So Katie Bean is here with us today, and she is a doctor of medical science, PAC, entrepreneur, and follower of Jesus who is passionate about helping others build healthier, more purposeful lives. After years in emergency medicine, God unexpectedly redirected her path beyond the clinic, opening doors she never could have planned, and showing her that her calling was bigger than the four walls of an exam room. Today, she helps others discover new possibilities beyond traditional careers while also educating health conscious adults about longevity, wellness, and the rapidly evolving world of, drumroll please,
Mhm.
peptides. So, through Escape the Clinic, Katie shares practical evidence informed education on health optimization, body composition, recovery, healthy aging, and the lifestyle foundations that make the biggest difference. She believes peptides are exciting tools, but never a substitute for faith, wisdom, or healthy habits. Whether she's encouraging someone to build a life they love or helping someone better understand the science beyond peptides, Katie's mission is the same: to equip others with the knowledge, confidence, and freedom to steward their health, gifts, and God given purpose well. So you can tell we're in for a treat today with Katie Bean on. Welcome to You Are Significant, Katie.
Thank you so much, Darlene. And I just want to also thank you for not only having me as a guest, but for having a platform like this to share others' stories and to connect. It's so special. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm so excited. We're in season 3. So, with over 6,000 subscribers. And if you haven't, remember to hit the subscribe button yet. And this is already speaking to you. Please remember to do that and even share this episode out. So, Katie's going to get started sharing today and tell us some about your background.
Yes. So I am a PA by trade. I've been a PA for over 16 years now. And my background is in not only correctional medicine, which is where I started, which was an amazing mission field. My first job as a baby PA was serving at a jail and with prisoners and inmates. And that was just such an incredible opportunity. And then I transitioned to emergency medicine, where I spent the bulk of my career, as well as sexual medicine, regenerative medicine, functional medicine. And that is when I actually discovered peptides. So, way before peptides were cool. But around that time, I was working as a PA. I was working hard, and I was definitely getting some red flags thrown my way as far as like burnout and being exhausted. And if you would have asked me back then what my priorities in life were, I would have told you God, family, career. But if you actually looked at my schedule, it was the complete and total opposite. And God had been nudging me for a few years during that time and trying to catch my attention that I was going the wrong way. And He was pursuing me and doing all the amazing things that God does. And I wasn't listening, to be completely transparent. And around the same time, a kind of like perfect storm happened. One, COVID happened, and I was furloughed from all of my jobs. And so I worked in emergency medicine. I taught at a local PA school, teaching the next generation of PAs. I worked in urgent care, and I also worked at a functional medicine clinic. So I was very busy, and I had lots of jobs in clinic work. And I had built my identity around being a PA. And at that time in my life, I thought that if I wasn't successful in my career, I've always been super career driven, that I was a failure and that I would not be loved if I wasn't successful in my career. So I'd built this whole identity around being a PA, around my career, and I lost it all overnight. And around that same exact time, COVID was happening. I lost all my jobs. Of course, COVID, just like everyone else on the planet, had to go through major transitions. But my little sister, who had just graduated PA school, I was actually her professor. She had just graduated PA school and she was in a car accident and she did not make it. There's no words for the grief and the pain. And even this many years afterwards, it's sometimes challenging to talk about just because of the grief that comes with that, the grief of losing somebody abruptly. And I realized through all of that that I didn't want to wake up one more morning dreading my day, not living full out in the gifts that God had given me, had blessed me with, had created me to use. And that changed everything. And I made massive pivots in my life. I finally decided to submit, to surrender to God, and to let Him take control. And He, from that, has done more than I could ever imagine. I wake up every morning, and yes, life is still difficult. Yes, life is still challenging, but I wake up every morning and pinch myself that I can't believe that this gets to be my life, that I get to have this kind of relationship with God, that I get to be led every single day in the spirit. And it's still a cross to bear. I'm still stubborn and I'm still Katie and I'm still human. And so it is a daily prayer, a daily submission. And some days I don't do as well as other days. But through that, I created 3 online businesses. And when I say I mean God. So throughout this whole episode, if I ever use me or I want God to get all the glory because I would not be sitting here today without God's work and all of this, his hand in all of this. This is not Katie. But through that, I have started 3 different businesses and they're all online. One is helping other women to realize their gifts and use their experiences and their background, box it up into an online format and put it out into the world to serve others in such a bigger way than you can do in your geographical area. You can, I mean, if you think about it, you've got billions of people at the tip of your fingertips and your phone that you can reach and that you can help. And then I've always been really passionate about health and wellness and longevity and have a passion for helping others steward the body and the health that they were given and to live their fullest life, however long that life may be. And from that, I also have my Steadfast Life, which is a peptide and GLP telehealth clinic.
This is amazing what all God is doing in your life and how He's working, and all of the wisdom that it's required to begin these different entrepreneurial ventures that you have been blessed to be a part of and even lead. So, do you want to dig in a little more and tell us a little more about how you got started moving from the clinical life into entrepreneur? Those are two very different genres of work.
Oh my goodness, I love this question. I'm so glad you asked it, Darlene. So it is one messy step at a time. It is a huge learning curve. I'm still learning to this day. In medicine, we are not taught marketing. We're not taught social media. We're not taught anything related to business. We're taught medicine, how to diagnose, prescribe, treat, and care for patients. And so it was, just like you said, a massive learning curve. And for all of your listeners here, if they take nothing else away from this episode, I hope that they see that if I can do it, they can do it. And it just takes one messy step every single day. It's not going to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. If you wait for the perfect timing, the perfect plan, the business plan all laid out, it never actually happens. But if you take that one messy step every day and you're listening to the nudgings and the calling and the direction that God's taking you in, if you follow those, God's going to do amazing things, right?
Mm.
He is just so wonderful, but you have to trust and have that faith before you can ever see it. And so it did, like you said, require a lot of trial and error, studying, learning, finding mentors, and being willing to fail. I think in our culture, we do not respect failure as much as we should have. Failure is, in my opinion, there's no such thing as failure. It's all a lesson for learning. Some of my biggest failures, and I'm using quotations for your podcast listeners,
Mhm.
some of my biggest failures have been the greatest learning experiences ever because from that failure, I was able to pivot and tweak and change And then it became a massive success, bigger than I ever would have done if I would have succeeded the first go around. And so being okay with doing it messy and being okay with failing is just part of it, as well as using the resources that you have access to, which fortunately for us in this day and age, you have the entire internet out there that can help guide you and provide those learning opportunities and knowledge and education. So, for anyone here who's listening and who feels called or nudged to do something different, or who is starting to find themselves again, or maybe had, like me, created their identity around somebody else and that has changed, or God is calling you in another direction, just know that there's another way. There is another way. There's another option for you.
That shows the hope that you're coming from as an entrepreneur and a business owner, that it wasn't, well, this is all that's left. Rather, this is what I want to do, and I can be more closely connected with God and walk out on faith. I just think about Abraham and how he was called to leave his home. And way back then, it was like, I don't know that we stop and pause over that enough to think about that was safety and
Mm,
that was security, and that his tribe. He was being asked to leave the people that helped keep his family safe, provide food, protect the animals, that because he was already a wealthy man, protect
yeah,
his wealth, if you will. And he was being asked to get up, take his wife and his everything, and leave and go somewhere he didn't know.
yeah,
And I just think a lot about that as an entrepreneur, that every day we're creating something that we haven't done before.
yes.
And we're just obediently getting up and taking one next little step towards that unknown that we haven't ever been there before. A lot of it is on faith because, we might have this vision. We absolutely have a vision, but that vision is a vision of faith, that it's even going to be like that when we get
Mm,
there. And that is, there's always surprises, right? Do you feel this too, Katie? Along the way, it's like,
yeah.
wow, this is even better than I thought, or wow, this is even more challenging than I thought. So
Yeah.
what do
I
you
actually,
cling to, and how do you navigate those things as an
yeah.
entrepreneur?
Well, to piggyback off what you just said, because I think that's so, so important, because I think it's one of the biggest roadblocks today in our culture and with women is the security. What do we put our security in? And I am so guilty of this. And it's still something to this day that I struggle with and have to pray about. But is our security in our paycheck? Is our security in our career, in our workplace, in our family, in our marriage? I could go on and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
All of those things are going to fade and pass away. All of them. The only security we have, the only bedrock we have, the only foundation we have is God. But it is so scary, right? It's so scary because sometimes all you can see or all you feel like you need are the tangible things, the money in the bank account, the roof over your head, the food in the refrigerator. So it is very, very challenging. But to acknowledge that and to realize that and ask yourself, where am I placing my security? Acknowledge when it gets off and then come back to God and realize that He's going to provide for you. He is the only secure thing that never fades away. But I do have to say it is a challenge, especially as an entrepreneur. We are not guaranteed a paycheck next week. If we keep putting one foot in front of the other, hopefully it'll happen, but it's not a guarantee. And even when you work for somebody else's employee, it's not a guarantee. COVID made that loud and clear.
Mm-hmm.
I never in a million years in a healthcare profession ever thought that I would not have a job, right? I mean, everybody needs medical care, everybody needs healthcare, but COVID demolished that belief. It changed everything. So nothing is guaranteed and nothing is certain other than God's faithfulness to us.
Amen. Amen. God's faithfulness to us. That's so well said. And that is our identity then. It's not, well, I own this business that's worth, XYZ dollars, or that I'm a mom and my child is the star athlete of the football team
Yeah.
or the basketball
Yeah.
team, or we could fill in the blank with a lot of things, right? And it really is God made us. I'm his daughter. We are his daughters, and he sent his son Jesus to die for me. And that's how much I'm loved, and that's how
Yes.
much value it's already been paid. And so, really, that takes the pressure off, doesn't it, as an entrepreneur? It's not about proving worth or proving value. It's about how can I serve? Is my business serving? Is it making a difference? Is it being a light? Is it being another entity that is being salt and being grace and providing that in our lives, in other women's lives or families' lives? And I think when we can answer yes, that is really what gets us up in the morning and keeps
Yes.
us even up burning the candle at night, like the Proverbs 31 woman did. That's the real motivation. So,
A
can you
thousand
speak
percent.
to the passion? Like, do you have a mission statement for your business? Do you have it all under one umbrella, like a LLC, or tell me
Yes.
a little more about that?
Yes, so I have 2 different LLCs, and both of them, the mission, my internal mission is to glorify God, period. So the mission statement you see online is a little bit different depending on what the business is. So for example, with my steadfast life, that is about helping people to steward their body, steward their health, in such a way that glorifies God and they can live in their purpose. So that's my steadfast life mission statement as far as the website goes. But my personal mission statement is that I wake up every morning and everything that I do is for God's glory and kingdom and not mine. And I am by no means perfect at that. Sometimes Katie's kingdom takes over and takes a lot of prayer and forgiveness. And of course, God nudging me back onto the right path. But yes, those are my mission statements.
So simple and yet so profound. Glorify God. And that is, I would think that's such a firm anchor, if you will, in the storms that we go through in life and business, that you can always turn around and say, is this glorifying God? And then if it's a yes, you know what to do. And if it's a no, then you know what to do next. So tell us a little more about who you feel most called to help and what you hope people will take away after hearing this podcast.
Hmm. So I feel most called to help women who are struggling with their health and their weight. I have seen countless patients as a PA who sat on the exam table across from me and they told me that they've gained XYZ pounds and they're doing everything right. They're trying to eat right. They're trying to walk. They're trying to make all the changes and the scale keeps going up. And
Mm,
I do their labs and I get their lab results back and I have to stand there and tell them your labs look perfect. There's nothing
mm,
wrong.
mm-hmm,
And the frustration that women feel from that and
mm-hmm,
men too, men as well. They're no exception, but I feel truly called to help those those women out there who struggle with their body image, with their weight, with their health, with trying to prevent chronic disease or trying to take back the chronic disease that they are now taking multiple prescriptions for. We're not designed to live like that, right? We're not designed to have to exist on prescriptions, right?
mm-hmm,
And so my main goal is to put the education out there, the tools and the resources out there for women, any men too, if you have men listeners, but for women specifically, I have a real heart for
mm-hmm,
because I've been there. I am 42 and I have been before where the scale kept going up. I was doing all the right things. I'm doing cardio for an hour and a half every day and strength training and eating right and starving myself and missing meals and all of the things, and nothing changes. And I still am unhappy. Like when I look in the mirror, that's not what I want for people. Like, I want them to feel confident, to feel proud of the body that they've been given, that they're living in, and to steward it well, right? So it's not about just the numbers on the scale, but it's also about preventing chronic disease and also to leave a healthy legacy for the generations that follow you, to be a great example for your kids and show them what a healthy life looks like and how to steward your body well.
Very well said. So, chronic disease and the legacy that we're leaving of what really matters
Yeah.
and what is most important. And yes, we want to look good.
Yeah.
That's just what woman doesn't want to look good in her own
Yeah.
skin and feel confident. But in the end, we all come in all different shapes and sizes.
Mm.
Like online and television before that really tried to put us in a certain model, and we all know, well, number one, everybody doesn't have the same preferences. There's all types of different preferences. So, what's perfect to one person may not be perfect to another.
Yeah.
So, we just need to lighten up on making ourselves feel like we have to be a certain way.
Yeah.
And in the end, it really is about the inside and who we are inside, because this outer body is going to fade. Peptides, vitamins, water, exercise, we can reverse aging quite a bit now,
Yeah.
but we know we're not meant to live forever, nor do we want to. We want to go be in heaven, and we want to rejoin those who've gone before us that we love.
Yes.
So, in the meantime, we really want to feel as good as we possibly can and use that strength to
Mhm.
serve the Lord and to serve others. And I think for me, because I went through a time in 23 where I had taught exercise classes, 2 classes a day, 4 days a week, and this knot in my back kept getting bigger, and I really haven't shared this story. So, it kept getting bigger and bigger, and by the end of 23, I was like, "Okay, my foot is starting to turn in, and I'm
Mm.
starting to get up and not really be able to walk, or even be trying to go for a walk with my husband at night after supper. And then my legs just aren't working quite right. So I knew I needed to address that thing. And that meant closing my exercise business for a little
Mm.
while to let my body heal and go through some physical therapy. And it ended up taking 6 months. They did 2 months of, oh, do these exercises. And I knew that wasn't going to really work because I already did those exercises, but you know how it is. They have to do their protocol. So we
Yeah.
did that. And then we did 2 months of them literally the fascia, trying to release all the fascia under there, and then 2 months of doing electrodes. And
Mm.
really that therapy is what helped release deep and get my body functioning. So it was a wake up call for me that however long I have that my body will function at an optimum is a gift.
Mm.
And we can lose that. It could be due to a car wreck. It could be due to
Mm.
a illness that comes on and leaves damage behind. I mean, it can be multiple things. And so our bodies are fearfully and wonderfully made. We have the nervous system, and we have the respiratory system, and all these different systems that have to work together to create really, truly good health. And so every day is such a gift. And I love that you're in the space of helping people reverse aging and be able to keep their health for as long as they possibly can.
Mm.
So,
Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, I would take it even a step further. Like,
mhm,
everyone hears about the GLPs, right? Those are the big
mhm,
popular ones and the weight loss. And we kind of just talked about that and helping women be proud of what they see in the mirror and also chronic disease and legacy that you leave for your kids. But there's other things as well, like waking up fatigued and not knowing why. Your thyroid's fine, your hormones are fine. Why am I so tired? Or the decline in your libido as you get older. Like, we're designed to be sexual creatures, to have intimacy with our spouses. And you shouldn't have to be embarrassed to talk about that with your provider. You shouldn't be embarrassed to have to find ways to help overcome that as you age so that you continue to grow your intimacy with your spouse. The energy, your performance, your recovery, there's so many different peptides out there and that are becoming, thankfully, a lot more known and heard of now. But yeah, it's not just about weight loss. It's also about aging well and aging amazing. That is one thing that I say all the time is that it's not about living longer necessarily, but living well longer.
Yes, yes. So, can you share one practical takeaway that a woman listening could apply immediately in her own life?
As far as which goal?
Like what we're talking about here today, from what you do and your perspective, is there one practical tip that you could give her that she could implement right away and it would
Mm.
create improvement?
Yeah, I think awareness is huge. And I say that from the perspective of I had a lot of check engine lights in a lot of different areas of my life before God shoved me over the cliff and was like, this is what we're going to do. You're going to do this my way now. And to pay attention to those. And I think that awareness is huge. So, the one thing that you could do right now, right this instant, of course, keep listening to the end, but right this instant, once you finish listening, is to really assess your health and your life. Are you feeling well? Are you fatigued? Do you have headaches every single day? Are you happy with your weight, or is your weight healthy? Is your weight to the point where you're talking diabetes and cardiovascular disease? What's going on in your body? What's going on in your mind? How's your mental health? How is your intimacy? And to really just be aware of those. So, paying attention to those red flags, the check engine light, and just write it down. The first step is awareness. And then the second step to go even farther is education. Educate yourself on your options. There's a lot of other options out there besides conventional medicine and prescriptions. Now, I come from a Western conventional medicine background. I'm a doctor of medical science, I'm a PA, and there's definitely a place for that. But there's also a place for other things to consider for your health before it even gets to that point or to reverse those things.
Mm-hmm. So, can you give an example of something you're thinking of, or?
Oh, peptides. Yeah, peptides. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's so many. I don't want to overwhelm everybody, but a very common one, for example, is BPC 157. It's
Mhm.
amazing for recovery. There's the Clo stack and the Glow stack. If we're talking anti aging and building collagen from the inside, GHK or copper is awesome. I mean, there's so many different peptides out there. And there is a lot of research still left to be done on them, but there's also a lot of research that's already been done. And so just educating yourself on what is available out there beyond prescriptions or beyond traditional, conventional Western prescriptions.
Mhm. And even though peptides are kind of new for a lot of us, Katie was sharing that she's been working with in the peptides for 7 years. Is that right?
Yeah, so I worked at a functional medicine, regenerative medicine clinic right before COVID. So that was like 6, 7 years ago. And that's when I first started using peptides. So I discovered peptides. I started a prescription of one, and I was like, oh my goodness, why didn't they teach this to us in school? This is incredible. I feel amazing. My energy is great. My performance is great. My body composition, that stubborn fat that just would not go away no matter how much I weight train, no matter how much I cut calories and increase my protein, that all improved. And I was like, where was this in our education? Where is this in the protocol? And so I've been using them for the past 6 or 7 years. I have experimented with lots of different peptides. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what's coming down the pipeline in the next 5 years. There was a very big FDA meeting a few weeks ago. I'm sure you heard about it.
Mhm.
And 6 of the 7 peptides that were up for review were passed. And so those will be going into further research and can now be made by compounding pharmacies. So your 503A, 503B compounding pharmacies. So it's a huge step in the peptide world. So it's a
Mhm.
huge step in the right direction.
Mhm.
And it's super exciting.
It is. It's so exciting. And So, what would you suggest for someone who's listening and they're like, "Ooh, this peptide thing sounds really good." What would their next step be?
The next step is to figure out what your specific health goals are so that you can choose the right peptide for you. And so that's going to be very, very important. Everybody is very individualized and personalized. Some people will want to only use something to help with their body composition, right? They don't have much weight to lose, but they want a little bit more lean muscle.
Mhm.
Or there may be somebody who has quite a bit of weight to lose and they want help losing that weight.
Mm,
There may be someone who needs just tissue recovery. They need help with recovery. They have a chronic injury that they need help with. So, really, it is to figure out exactly what your health goals are, and then that way you can choose the best peptide for you, of course, with the help of a clinician. And a
mhm,
lot of these are stacks. So you can stack peptides, certain peptides together. I have a peptide playbook where you click your goals, your struggles, the things that you are trying to overcome, the desires that you have for your health, and it will give you the stack of peptides or the peptide stacks that are best for that goal.
mhm,
There's lots of different education out there. So the first step is to figure out exactly where you want to head with the direction of your health in the future. The next 3 months from now could look totally different for your health and wellness. 6 months from now, even more. So it's really just to determine exactly what you want as far as your health goals, and then to know which peptides help with those goals.
mhm. I'm just thinking back to my story about the knot in my back,
Yeah.
and that if peptides had been offered, then it could have
Mhm.
cut the time down at least to resolve that. And I still have a bit of a knot back there. It's not gone. I went to a massage therapist last month or so. It's been recent. And she really was a massage therapist. So she was approaching it, she had on scrubs, and she was
Yeah.
approaching this from an experience. And so she was like, "We really want to be gone. It doesn't have to be
Mhm.
remnants. I also don't want it or cause
Yeah.
any for you." So I am interested. You've got my interest peaked because I'm learning right along with the listener of how peptides could help, not just from a weight loss or anti aging perspective, but even literally as a way to help our body
Mhm.
function more youthfully.
Yeah, one to definitely look at would be not only BPC 157, but TB 500. I'm sure you've
Hmm.
probably heard of the Wolverine stack. The Wolverine stack is very popular right now for recovery.
Mm. So, and you did mention if someone has had cancer, then that changes things. Is that right?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So you definitely want to be careful. It's a prescription just like any other prescription, any other medication, any other supplement. You need to be careful with what you put in your body and be aware that there are certain things that you don't take if you
Mhm,
have certain health conditions. So obviously pregnancy, breastfeeding, that's a big no. There's just no research out there
mhm,
on peptides and what those can do in that situation. Cancer is another one. And so you just want to make sure that you meet with a clinical provider who knows about peptides. Now, full disclosure, in the medical world, peptides are controversial. And so you may meet with your provider and one of two things could happen. One, you ask them, tell me about BPC 157 or tell me about this peptide, and they will have no idea what you're talking about. And
mhm,
that's just because we're not trained in this. We're not trained about this in medical school, PA school. Or the other response you may get if you have somebody, again, who may not be super peptide savvy is they are absolutely totally against it. And they make that very apparent. And then you have providers who have researched the peptides, who have used peptides, who are familiar with them. And you just want to make sure that you're smart about it. So you want to go to somebody who's familiar with peptides, who understands what they can do, who understands when you should not be taking them, and who can just monitor your health just like you would with any other medication, supplement, anything else that you take. It's very similar to if you were to take creatine or any other over the counter supplement. There's lots of supplements that your provider has never recommended maybe to you that you take. and that there could be a risk for that, right? For exam, let's see, I'm trying to think of one, St. John's wort, for example. And so you just want to be careful about what you put into your body. Make sure that you educate yourself and that you also find a provider who understands peptides and can guide you best.
That makes sense. So, a closing thought that you have for our listener today.
Mm. My closing thought, Darlene, I want to say thank you to you and thank you for this platform. Thank you for creating a place where we can be open about our faith.
Mm.
And it is an honor and pleasure to be here. So that is my closing thought to you. To the listeners, my closing thought is my prayer for you is that you wake up every day and just feel so good in your body that you're able to go play outside with your kids and in 20 years or however with your grandkids, and that you're able to have an amazing intimate relationship with your spouse, that you have energy and vitality, and that you live your years stewarding your health and the body that God gave you to the fullest.
Mm, beautiful. Thank you so much for being on with us today, Katie. And I will definitely put in the show notes ways to stay in touch with even more discussions as our listeners, I'm sure, curiosity has been piqued. So, thank you so much for coming on. Thanks you for tuning in to You Are Significant. I hope that this episode helped you to embrace your own God given purpose. Please share this out with a friend and remember to subscribe. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, walk in faith, find the joy, and stand in your own significance.